great creative. They knock it out of the park there, but that's debatable. So without that, you don't remember it. If I said to you, name me a plumber, for example, how many plumbers can you remember or come to mind?
The ones with the good songs and commercials.
Okay, so really, you're not really in your branded, there's no plumbers really branded that you think of. What about a fast food restaurant? Can you name one, two, three? Well, that's because you've been bombarded every day since you were 13 with, right, the 4 keys of branding. A quick example of this is, I woke up last year, the floor was wet. Walking on the hardwood floor, water was coming up. And I realized I had a pinhole leak on a pipe in the wall. They were faulty pipes. There's no plumbers here, I guess, right? But they were the PEX pipes from 2006 that were faulty. There were lawsuits. So I realized I couldn't fix it. It wasn't a leaky faucet. So what do you think I need? A plumber. So where did I go to find a plumber?
Google.
Google? Well, it's a trick question. The first place you go is the search engine of the mind, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't recall, I've lived here 8 years and I couldn't recall a plumber. So,
Well, you didn't have a need for one, so you wouldn't have to.
it's true, known before needed. It's interesting you said that. Because had a plumber been advertising where I could recall a plumber, I would have called that plumber. But, you know, there weren't at the time, by the way, there is now, but there wasn't really a plumber actively advertising to get into the search engine of my mind and apparently all of yours. Because really no one had a quick recall on a plumber. Well, if a plumber did that, you'd have a likelihood of calling that plumber. So yes, I went to Google and I Googled plumbers near me. And a bunch of plumbers showed up. You know, some said sponsored at the top. And then there were just pages of plumbers, 2, 3, 4 pages. Most of us don't go past the first page, right? So we'll talk about what you can do to get your business up higher in that organic search. Here's why we're talking about this. In the 1800s, Hermann Ebbinghaus did a study called the forgetting curve. Back then, the 1800s, he found after an hour, we forget 50% of what we see or learn. After a day, we forget 70%. After a week, we forget 90%. That's why you can't recall the Super Bowl commercials, but you can recall McDonald's. So think about that now, years later. We're bombarded with messages every single day. So it's like, it's no wonder we can't recall, right? So, by the way, we need so you will forget 90% of this. If we nail the 10%, which Michael's gonna do, he promised, he's gonna hit the 10 that you remember.
So much pressure.
That's right. So that's really the reason for that. By the way, one of the things we do, every commercial that airs on our radio stations also airs on the dashboard simultaneously to help you remember it, because the effectiveness goes up 63% when you see it and hear it at the same time. So we do that by default now, every commercial. And you'll notice that when you're driving, you'll see commercial messages on your radio. So back to the plumber. Plumbers near me, right? Saw a list of plumbers. I picked, by the way, a plumber on the first page, somewhere mid. I didn't pick the one at the top, I could have, but I picked a plumber somewhere in the middle. I didn't go to page 2 or 3. What we found with radio is we can run a campaign, you will get results. But ultimately, people tend to not write down the phone number of the commercial. They end up going to Google. And if they Google and your business isn't there, we potentially lose that lead. So we needed a low-cost way to get you higher up on search so that when we run our campaigns, we'll get the best results. So we came up with a program called Boost. And the way it works is kind of ingenious. We all use Google, right? But there are 60 plus other areas you can search, other listings. Things like Bing, Yelp, you've heard of some of them, but there's some you've never heard of. Hot Frog, anyone use Hot Frog to search? That's one of them. So if most of us don't use them, why should your business be listed there? Anyone guess why it matters if you're listed on these 60 plus I'll tell you
Because
why.
there's are niches that you're missing.
Google scores you on that. So Google dings you on that organic search if you're not there. So we have a team that sits there in the background, and their sole goal in life is to get you on those 60+ listings. Now, you could do it yourself, but good luck, because you're reaching out to 60 companies, and even if you get listed, it doesn't stay there automatically. You have to work it, do maintenance on it. That's what Boost does. The other thing is, if you're in business, you probably have a Google business profile, right? As your address, your phone number. Did you know that Google wants you to update that 3+ times a month, or they ding you? Now that means changing a picture, changing some information. Our team at Boost does that for you. So they work on the 60+, they make sure they update that Google business profile, and that's the way that they increase that organic search. And there are different levels of packages. I won't go through them, but the base package does what I just described at $199 a month. So we recommend with radio campaigns, with digital campaigns, that you add Boost to it. Now, there's other things like reputation management and, again, lots of stuff. So if that's of interest to you, talk to your account executive, because it's something we really think makes a lot of sense.
How do you integrate what you do on radio to video?
To the video,
I mean, because you say social media presence and all that, but
Yeah.
social media is based off of just audio, and it's more of a visual thing. So like, how
Well,
do you create?
Michael's gonna cover that. And now we're getting into more DNA digital. So for now, we're talking radio, right, dashboard, and just search. Just being listed higher up in your search. But we'll get to the next phase of it that'll answer that question. And by the way, with Boost, you get a progress report each month, so you can see the progress on it. It does not happen overnight. To get you on those 60+, it takes time, and you will get there. And if that, some people say, do I have to continue at that point? You don't, but you may not stay there, so you probably will want to continue with, the $199 a month. And by the way, just wanted you to know, we're a radio company, we're a digital company, we're also a billboard company. We have access to every digital board in town, as well as every small screen. Doctors, anywhere you've seen ads on a screen, we have access to that, and we can put your business there. We have every gas pump that has ads, we have access to that as well. We can put you on a spread of all of it, or we can identify just the places you want to be. So just keep that in mind. And again, talk to your account executive if that's of interest.
There are 16 screens on the gas station outside where I come out of my neighborhood.
16 screens. Yeah, you'll see them
It's on both
everywhere.
sides of the post.
Look at the gym, look at a bowling alley, the airport, there's screens everywhere. And we can run ads on those. So did you know that $309 billion was spent on digital marketing in the last year? 72% of marketing budgets go to digital channels. 75% of people say online ads find what they're looking for. And 80% of businesses say digital ads boost their brand awareness. So digital is pretty much everywhere. And that takes us into our digital expert, Michael Lombardi. He's gonna take us to the next.
I have to go back for it, but first, really happy to be here, Mike Lombardi. I have been in advertising and marketing for over 30 years. I was one of those weird kids at 5 years old that knew what he wanted to do. I said this yesterday because kind of doing the tour. I used to watch Bewitched in reruns, by the way, not when it was a weekly show. Not saying my age, but, And I said to my mom, "It's really cool. He comes home, he has a bourbon, Here I am 5. I don't know. So Dad never does that. So anyway, but 30 plus years in advertising and marketing. Stop it, Dave. I know you're thinking.
They're in
But that's right.
Yeah.
There was two big firms, right?
Yep.
But I spent 27 years in digital media, so lots of experience behind me. I do come from the state of New Jersey. It's so nice to be in warm weather. So we have about 40 inches of snow and single-digit temperatures, so it's not the ideal winter. So, but and I also also just want to say thank you for coming today. You'll hear me today talk about a lot of things. You'll hear me say people-based, you'll hear me say DNA digital. You're also going to hear me, I'm not going to say things about your budget or your spend, I'm going to talk about investment. So the first thing I want to say is, this is an investment in your time. This is time away from your business, but you're investing time to learn more about our products. And I'm from my behalf, I thank you for that. The other thing is, just as my role, I don't sit here in Mobile. I actually, like I said, live in Jersey, but I support markets all across the country. So I have a lot of conversations with people just like yourselves who have the same challenges or looking for solutions to solve those challenges. And that's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to just run a quick video, and that's going to give you a quick highlight about DNA Digital and what's it all about. Don't mind the. What did you just? Oh, okay. Where'd it go?
Data has often been referred to as the oil of the 21st century because it influences all areas of modern-day consumption and commerce. For marketers today, it indeed is a precious resource. They need data to find new customers. They need to understand what their existing customers want, know where to reach people, and how. But up until now, marketers were in the dark. They had no idea of knowing what they were paying for because there was no real way of verifying data quality. And this poor quality data led to ineffective marketing and wasted spend. But now the days of being in the dark are over. We've been ranked #1 in overall data quality by TrueSet, an independent firm that scores the accuracy of consumer data. TrueSet's study awarded us with the most #1 rankings out of any company. Simply put, our data is better. Here's what they found. We know real people. We ranked #1 in the quality of our linkage data. The process of marrying or linking multiple consumer attributes to create a more holistic consumer profile. Offline data is linked to emails and devices to real people. We know the most about people. We were ranked #1 in data accuracy for several consumer attributes. We were #1 in accuracy for Hispanic audience, #1 in accuracy for household income, and #1 in accuracy for the presence of children. Our data is unique. Not only is our data ranked #1, but it's data that no one else has. TrueSet found that of 250 million people in our database, 70 million people are unique to us. This means that we are the only provider through which you can reach these 70 million plus people. Our data is simply a cut above the competition. We know real people. We know the most about these people, and our data is the most unique. Local businesses need the highest quality data to power their marketing campaigns. It's time they find more customers and understand what their existing customers want. It's time for local businesses to
Let's go. All right. So hopefully that kind of sets the tone for the conversation today. Just a couple things. When it says connect to people, I think there's a big part of this conversation that is about connecting with people. But what we want to do is really connect to your next customer. And that's what DNA Digital is all about. So a couple things. I stand here. Can everybody see? All right, good. So data safe, we're very big into data privacy and governance. This is a core piece of our digital business. So there's nothing we want to do to disrupt it. So think about CCPA, you think about all those guidelines. We're the ones who have to make sure that we abide by that. Also know that the data we collect on people is all consent-based. It's all a double opt-in. So there's two processes. We're going to go through that as we go, but I just want to at least set the tone. Our linkage is email, right? That's a big difference. A lot of data companies out there use cookies. Anybody know what a cookie is? I listened 27 years ago. I answered it by saying milk and cookies. And maybe that I said it for an hour. By the way, it's okay to ask questions here. I'm happy to answer them as we go. But the linkage is key because that means it's a real person, and that's the linkage of the journey that we follow people. It's all real, verified people. And again, because of that, we're going to give you a much better performing question. So the answer I'm going to ask you, you don't have to answer it, is, are you satisfied? By the way, this is every CNA that I do. This is the first question I ask because I think this is the most important. But are you satisfied with your current digital strategy? Answer yes or no, doesn't matter, because at the end of this, maybe your mind will change. If you're saying, yes, I am, but maybe we can do something to enhance it. And if you're not, then this will be even more valuable to you, because this is the way we can really help answer that question for you. So I'm going to assume some things, that's one of my first rules I never want to do, soon. But again, I support markets all across the country, and I kind of hear what local businesses are saying. So what matters to you, I can guarantee you it's not opens, it's not clicks, it's not impressions, it's not all the vanity metrics. Those are all things that you want to know and what's happening. But at the end of the day, you're looking at proof of sale. That's what you want to know. What I spent is what I'm getting in, what am I getting in return? And these are the three questions that I get asked most by marketers all across the country. And I'm telling you, I have meetings every week from California to Texas to Des Moines, Iowa, and these are the three core things. Did my campaign actually work? Because they're telling me the clicks, opens, impressions, none of that pays my bills, doesn't keep the lights on, doesn't pay my employees, doesn't help me support their families, and by the way, it doesn't help support my family. So how do I know it actually worked? How do I know the people I reach? Remember I said before, connecting people is one thing, but connecting the right person who is your next customer is even more important. How do I know I reach the right people? How do I know if they're local? How do I know if they have all the interest-based areas, like if they attended a concert 5 times in the last year, right? How do I know if they're real? And the other one is the Jerry Maguire, right? Show me the money. How much did I spend and what did I get in return? Those are the answers that we have, and I'm gonna go through how we can do that, and we'll talk about the proof of sale as we go through. So what is DNA Digital? If I say DNA Digital, I want you to think first party people-based data. If I say first party people-based data, I want you to think DNA Digital. That's the marketing cumulus guys coming down saying, don't say people-based data. But if I say DNA Digital again, I just want you to think people-based first party data. So we have a database of over 250 million individuals, all US based, right? We have over 600 and almost 680 million emails that are verified. How many here have more than 3 emails? Most are, at least 2, you gotta have at least 2. You have 3. The average is 3.5. So you just made the average. You just made the average. So we have about 680 million verified emails, right? That means it's an email that can be delivered. We have over 12,000 data segments. That's the way we can identify who people are. So if we sit with you in a CNA, we're gonna ask you a lot of questions about your business, right? Not only are you satisfied with your current digital strategy, but who's your target? Who are the people who are buying your products? Who are the ones that you're servicing, right? What are all the things tied to them? We can do that by using those 12,000 segments. Also on how we collect data. Remember I said we're really big into data privacy and governance. That's because we're collecting the first party data. This is our data, we have to protect it, but we have 15,000 partners who say, I don't wanna run the registration process for my site. You guys handle it, and that's what we do. We keep them in compliance, we make sure all the boxes are checked, and that's how we do it. And that gives us the consent-based, I talk about double opt-in, I say accurate and verified email addresses, making sure it's a real verified person. Again, if someone's using cookies, right, or third-party data, we never know if that's a real person because the data never gets verified. And again, it's gonna lead to better performance. So how do we put this all together? So we're big into mnemonics. So I'm gonna tell you FLAS. See, David's looking at me saying, what's FLAS? FLAS is first name, last name, address, and zip. That's how, right, that's FLAS, right? So if you see Jackson Miller, where his address is, we verified this file with the USPS, United States Postal Service, and the Census Bureau through DPV. I never knew what this meant, by the way. You know what DPV stands for? Delivery Point Verification. So if you're recognized by the USPS and the Census Bureau at an address, you're a real person, right? Because mail can be delivered to you. So then you take that and you say, all right, here's one of our 15,000 partners, right? This is a sample. Think form fills, site surveys, retail outlet sites, anywhere where either you want something for free, like content you want to gather, where you have to put in an email address, your first name, last name, address, and by the way, here's the double opt-in. Yes, I want to receive information. No, I'm not a robot, right? Now that person has said, I'm gonna buy all this stuff. I do want to receive communication, and we're gonna verify. How many people have gone through a process where they have to do CAPTCHA and they get an email that says, you gotta verify your email before you can be part of our, that's what happens, okay? So I just wanna break it down and make it easy for you. So all of a sudden we have the registration, which we just matched, these two, Jackson Miller, we have his address. By the way, we also have his email address. Now we say the domain status is Gmail, so we've validated that piece. The delivery status is delivered, so we've been able to deliver him an email. and he's already engaged. So now we have a verified person who's part of DNA Digital, who is first name, last name, address, zip, and deliverable email. And we're gonna gather other verified emails for him too. We do hygiene and verification 24/7 on emails. Your email address today could be bad 2 or 3 weeks from now, right? And then it could go back to being good. So there's always a process, which is why we like to have the multiples of people from a delivery standpoint. But then, remember what I said before, connecting to people is one thing, but connecting to your next customer is really important. So how do we find those people, and how do we figure out how they fall into what we call our taxonomy? That's the 12,000 data, safe data segments. So we have millions of signals that we track every day for people. Does this seem spooky, creepy? But think it's all this. I mean, wouldn't you rather get ads that are relevant to you? And would you, if you're focused on your business, you want to make sure every dollar you spend is being effectively spent. This is how you do it. So we pick up Jackson Miller. By the way, he goes to ESPN about 7 times a week. So we kind of have an idea. We're starting to get a profile around him. All of a sudden, we notice he's been clicking on auto ads. Now we know he's ESPN, so he's sports, and we also know he may be an auto intender. We verified him by his unique identifier and his email address. And all of a sudden, we start building our taxonomy with all those signals we receive. And we can say that Jackson Miller is now an auto intender because he's been searching for cars and asking for quotes. We also can say he's a sports fan because he goes to ESPN 7 times a week. He goes to some other sites that are sports related. We also know that I'm not one of these, but if he starts going to DraftKings or FanDuel or NFL fantasy football, things like that, all of a sudden he could fall into fantasy sports. So you're starting to build a profile on all these people. And by the way, he's a credit card user, which we've already verified because he used a credit card to make a purchase. And then we can also tie in other areas. So this is how we start to build those 12,000 segments. So we can tie up to 12,000 signals around each person. We start building the full profile, and all of a sudden, this is just a sample of some of the segments we have, but we can go political. We have pre-built audiences. We've got B2B. We've got automotive, finance, intent, restaurant and dining, demographic information. We start tying age, gender, how many kids you have. All those things get tied in, and we can start selecting. Every audience we build is custom. We don't use a pre-built audience, which is what other data providers do as well. So you also want to know that people are local to you. So if you take Brittany, James, and Chanel, right? Now on the surface, if you look at the first, say 2 or 3 things, single family resident, 125 to 150,000 household income, on Fort Walton. Pretty similar. They all have 2 kids. However, Chanel has 2 kids that are under the age of 5. So now we're starting to see that everybody has a unique digital DNA. There's nobody who's exactly the same, just like in life, no one is exactly built the same. But we understand who they are. There's no fraud, there's no guesswork, and we can target them by name, right? We say definitive named audiences. That means that first name, last name, postal, zip, email address is all tied to these individuals as we start to build out these audiences for you. So if you think about the full profile, just to break it down a little more, because this is where it really gets even more interesting. So Brittany, we know her whole B2C. And I say here in the mnemonics again. We got the B2C of Brittany. We also understand, right, here's her two kids. She's a travel enthusiast. We know she's an online shopper. But we also know her B2B, what she does, her professional world. She is a decision maker. We have her email address for business. We know she's a VP of public relations. We know her company is a $50 million in revenue and an events industry. That's her makeup. That's her B2P. So sometimes you hear us say B2C, that's your business to consumer. We can do B2B, or we can do both, which is B2P, business to person, right? Because if you're recruiting, you do want people who fit the profile of the position you're trying to fill, but you don't necessarily want to send them emails or send ads to them on their business email. So it's a great way to do that. And here's the other piece. We run about 100,000 campaigns a year. There's a lot of learnings, right? And because people are in our DNA digital data set, we know that Brittany tends to be much more engaged in Instagram and CTV. So what does that mean? That means we build these custom audience, we execute across multiple channels. We know she tends to be more engaged in Instagram and CTV because that's where she's more engaged. It doesn't mean she won't get a display ad. It doesn't mean she won't get a programmatic audio ad, sorry. We'll try to hone in on her more because that's where she becomes your customer. So there's a lot of learnings. Again, take James Robert. This is his journey. We track people through their journey because, again, the more information, knowledge is power, right? I say that. I've been doing this for a long time. That, to me, knowledge is power. Knowledge is what gets you through. We try to learn as much as we can about every individual. So his journey is he heard an audio ad on his Amazon Echo in the morning. He's on his mobile device. He sees the ad on Facebook. He then views the video ad on his smart TV. He sees the display on weather.com. Gets home at night, starts checking his email, and all of a sudden he goes through the email and sees that you sent him an email. And we can do this across multiple channels. I know Don talked about digital out of home and some other areas, but we deploy email campaigns, display, CTV, OTT, social, with Meta, TikTok, Snap, LinkedIn, Google. We do SEM, we do YouTube, audio, so programmatic audio. All of these channels here are all people-based. Everything we do is people-based. So, big opportunities as we go through this too. So, Don mentioned $10 million for a Super Bowl commercial. So we have the opportunity to put you into live sports, NFL, and everybody knows today's MLB opening day, Tuesday, right? Yankees play at 7:05. First pitch. But we had clients across the country running in the Super Bowl this year through streaming, CTV, OTT, right? Anybody here stream? I'll bet you. Cable TV? Who here does cable TV or linear TV? So most everybody streams your TV. So that's the wave of the future, right? We were able to deliver. We have clients running right now in March Madness, MLB, NBA playoffs, the Olympics, FIFA World Cup we have coming up. We have the Summer Olympics in 2 years. We had the Summer Olympics the last time it ran. But these are all opportunities, all live in-game and all people-based, which we can prove the sales to you. We also have weather triggers. If your business is affected by weather, this is an element that you can add to it. We can talk about that when we start talking about your campaigns. Real quick on how other people build their data. So I talked before about cookies and bots and ad fraud, which cookies leads to, but a lot of people are just using third-party cookies. They have bot traffic, it's outdated app data. They scrape websites, so there are all ways of them, like a cookie is something that they can drop on your browser, right? But there's a lot of ad fraud. I told this story yesterday. It's kind of creepy in a way, but I had a guy who worked for me 25 years ago. His first job in digital was to sit at a computer and click on ads and create impressions. That was his job. I'm like, how did you live with yourself? Like, I mean, I kind of thought, he told me that after I hired him, but he actually turned out to be a pretty good rep. So, but that's how a lot of people build their data. They don't own it. We own it. We build it. It's first party. It's people based. That's the power that we bring. So when we sit with you and talk to you about your goals, I'm gonna use this as an example, but we never sell you a meta campaign. We never sell you an email campaign. We don't sell you a live sports campaign. Those are elements of the overall based on your goals. So we always tailor a solution. These are the 5 key goals to any digital campaign. And these are the channels that work best for these channels, for these goals. So depending on the size of the audience, the length of time you're running, and the investment level, depends on how deep we can go. Brand awareness, email, display, social, video, CTV, OTT, and audio, all great elements for good brand awareness. If you look at generating leads, display, native, social. Everybody know what native is? It's a great source for leads. Native are those ads if you go to sites and they say sponsored by or advertisement, they look like content, but they're not really content. That's a native ad. But anyway, you could pick, and by the way, you could have 2 goals, right? Your primary goal might be generating leads. These are the 2 that I find out most, generating sales or generating leads. But your secondary could always be brand awareness. So again, we try to mix in the elements that'll add both, but one has to be the focus, right? Because if it's lead gen, we want to make sure that every campaign is tailored to what your goal is. So how do we work? And here's a sample campaign. And now we start getting to how we can prove to you that this works. So one is we're going to first of all, we have to have an effective CNA with you. We have to understand what your goals are, where you're sitting, what's working, what's not working, who your target audience is, what you've tried before that seems to be generating, new products that are coming up, right? So we really want to understand who your audience is. We can launch across all channels. So we're going to pick the channels that make the most sense for your goal. We're going to be able to track performance. We can show you impressions, clicks. We have a dashboard that has all those things, the pixel dashboard, right? But at the end of the day, this is where the proof comes in. We can match to your customers and prove the ROI. And that is called people match. So as you're collecting a first name, last name, postal zip of every customer you work with, whether it's a lead, an estimate, a sale, right? You start putting that file together. And as we start running the campaign, we can do what we call a people match. That is taking your file, matching it to the file that we've just targeted, and give you back the matches. It's free, it's unlimited, and we can do it up to a year after the campaign ends. So example would be, I have a bank that we're working with out of Tallahassee. Their campaign ends the end of this month, it's auto loans. So Q2, they might have a different focus of, say, home equity loans. So now we can keep tracking against the auto loan for up to a year when that ends, even though we're running the home equity to a different audience, because it's not the same thing, right? So it's a great tool, it's a great product. Plus, if you have a column at the end that has the revenue number, now all of a sudden you're gonna get a file back that says true or false. Trues are all the matches to the campaign. You're gonna have that first name, last name, postal zip, right? And you can have the dollars. Working with a collision center auto body shop in Beaumont, Texas. There's a 5 location. They track everything they do. We just did our 3rd people match, which is 10. So far we've done a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 10-month. Their 3-month tracking revenue was $367,000 of revenue tracked back to the campaign. The second one was over 1.6 million. We just did the 3rd one, which is the last 4 months, which is over 2 million. Their total is $4.3 million attributed to, and I wouldn't even tell you what their spend is. Their ROI is phenomenal. And the first one we did, I remember being on the call with the rep, and he said, I don't know if I can give you full credit for the 367. It's 3 months, maybe they would have had me anyway. So, all right, he goes, but I love it. Everything's working great. Second one we did, he's like, I give you full credit. And I'm like, what changed? He said, because I'm friends with all the other auto body shops. We're all like, we network, and I'm booked 2 weeks out. I've been booked two weeks out since right after I started with you guys. They're not even booked a week out.
Nice.
So I know this is effective. So we're meeting with him next week. He's already signing up for another annual. He just finished an annual with us. But those are the things we can do, and that's the power we can put back into your hands. And I always refer to it as attribution with transparency in mind, right? Because nobody else will do this. Nobody else will give you back. And if they do, they're making you pay for it, and it's not as accurate or unlimited. We will do this for the life of your campaign and for up to a year after. So, a couple stories here too out of Mobile. Everybody know Commonwealth Bank?
Yeah.
Okay, so we work with Commonwealth Bank. So a couple things too, just and I'm gonna say this because as I've said it multiple times, I work with markets, but Don and the crew here and the markets he covered, some of the best teams across the country. They really care about your business. They're not a set it and forget it or sell it and see you later. Jolie, I know, I meet with her every month. Lionel and I, right, get on the phone. We go through the campaign. We make sure she's focused on, we have to try to understand like what her goals are, what are coming up. But we don't just go through the metrics. We go through the metrics, but then we also find out like what she's seeing, what she's hearing. And then she has to go back to the board. They've been running for 6 months. Their match rate has been almost 50%. Their CTV campaign is a 99% completion rate, which benchmarks are like around 60%. So we're always up in the 90%. That means someone watched your spot from beginning to end. A meta click-through rate of about 1.8 and a display rate over 0.11. But again, this is a really good success story. She's been running with us for a while and very happy. And then we had Majors Home Improvement. They've been with us for a year at least. So he did so well that last year in December he bought three businesses, actually, it's same brand, but three different areas. And he attributed 100% of that back to this campaign. And he's getting 70 deals a month.
79 on average in the first 9 months.
Yeah.
And to go back to Michael's point, he came to us because he wasn't being serviced, but more importantly, he wasn't seeing the ROI. And as to Michael, what he was saying, we talked to a client yesterday, and that's exactly what the big client, tractor dealer, we get through a gorgeous presentation, lots of great data. He goes, that's nice. I see a lot of these. He said, what matters is attribution. How many leads am I gonna get? How many conversions? And can you prove they came from you? That's all I care about. And that's what we do, and that's what happened with Majors and made him move to us. And the results bear it out.
I will say that Cumulus as a whole, at least the market side, I'll tell you that we have a number of people new advertisers that came to us this year who all left their previous because they weren't getting any attention. We have one out of Allentown, they signed per year at 6 figures. And the agency they were working with, who I actually knew, because I used to work with them 30 years ago, which is shocking. They hadn't spoken to them since a month after the campaign launched in 2024. And this was November 25. He said, do you have to tell them? He said, I haven't talked to them in a year. Never heard from them. So now we have the business, I help support it, and we have some happy clients. And that's what you're gonna get. I mean, Ryan will tell you, I send emails to all the reps, like, let's get this dashboard review. Once your campaign launches, well, let me go through this and I'll tell you, but we can do the creative for you, we can help you with that. Launch the campaign, write the multiple channels, and then again, the attribution, see the results. But this is really key. We wanna meet with you 5 or 6 weeks after that campaign launches to go through the metrics, the impressions. We also wanna hear what you're seeing, right? Are you seeing success? What are you hearing, right? We also use those things, and then we'll meet every 4 weeks after. But then we're gonna talk to you too. Like, I have one out of Tallahassee. We meet every month, and we go through new products. So we're already working on May. We're not even in April yet, but they're new products that are being launched in May. So we're already starting to prepare the campaign for that as we get through. April we did a month ago. So those are things that constantly change, but those are the things that we discuss. We go through the metrics, we go through the leads, his match back, but then we also gotta start talking about what direction he needs to go because they have new products, new offers and things like that. So every platform says they know people. We're the only ones who will prove it, and People Match is the way we do that. We verify, we activate, and again, we prove, and that's really what we do. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna go back to the first question I asked. After hearing all this about DNA Digital and what we offer, are you satisfied with your current digital strategy? That's where we're here to help you with, so.
You'll remember 10% for sure.
I hope so.
To prove it works.
I'm short, so that
There you go.
10% is not much.
So listen, everybody that came today, you get $2,000 of radio advertising, right? Just for showing up. The only requirement is that we need to set a follow-up meeting with you so that we can write the commercial, come up with a really good commercial for you, but also, maybe more importantly, talk about doing that customer needs analysis to figure out what your goal is. And that's where Michael will work with you to come up with a strategy exactly like he showed you, so that you can be, one of the many clients. The Majors Home Improvement, I always think about that, 79 sales attributed to that. That could be, they specialize in windows to full-blown remodels, so you can do the math on that to figure out, that's a return on investment for sure. And we're seeing that just across multiple things. And if you're in business, you probably got a call this week from someone selling digital. I mean, digital is sold everywhere, but it's exactly what Michael showed us, which is it's all anonymous. You don't know who you're actually reaching. So, test it out. Next time you get a call, say, hey, can you give me the names and address of the customers that, and match it back for me? And you'll get a blank silence, because they can't. No one else has the first party data. So anyway, if you like what you've heard, set that follow-up meeting, and that's really the next step. Don't run away. If you wanna grab some more food, wanna take a tour of the radio station, we'll do that. We can also meet with you if you wanna start honing in on that audience. Over here, yes.
So I have clients that we're already creating video advertisements for. Would y'all be able to be a secondary arm to that, where like helping them gain more traction, gain more leads and
Yeah.
everything?
We work with even ad agencies that, they use us because of that data. So they'll come to us and, we just help them out.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely.
In every way,
Yeah,
whatever they need.
all right. Well,
And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer too.
stick around.
Yeah.
Come down in the,
Do you
it's
ever
an
do-
open house. So
Do you ever do any advertising with churches?
With what?
Churches.
We have some nonprofits.
We've done
I
some
feel like
things
we've
in
had
the
some.
past,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And specifically, one pastor was just wanted to build, he wanted tomorrow customers, tomorrow, so yeah, he was wanting to build his congregation. So we've done just kind of like a recruiting campaign.
Okay.
And we can target the specific demographic you want, the geographic area you want to target that demographic. So, absolutely.
Any other questions? You got the expert here.
Well, I'll be around, so if you guys have anything you wanna ask, we're happy to.
One thing that Michael, with what we do, we're also HIPAA certified.
Very good point, thank you.
I don't
didn't
know
know,
if
is
there's any
anybody here
medical
medical?
people in here.
Is anybody medical? So People Match, sorry, and I should have, thank you, Lionel. So People Match, obviously with HIPAA is hard because you have to protect your data, so you can't. So last year, the group I'm in, we actually had to become HIPAA certified. So we all had to take a test. If one person failed, they got voted off the island. Saying, I did pass, by the way, that's why I'm here. But we have a different process, but the same result. So we actually fill out a form, you sign a BAA, which is a business associate agreement. We set up a clean room, you put your data in the clean room, we put our data in the clean room, you pull yours out, we never actually touch your data. Everything happens within the clean room. So we can't pixel, that's not part of the HIPAA. Our data is HIPAA compliant, it's all compliant from that standpoint, but doing the match, obviously, it has to stay that way. So, but we can do that. So, actually, I have a big campaign out of Fresno that's starting up in about a month or two. That's an urgent care analogy center and a surgery, might be a surgery center. That's it. So, anyway.
And that's my past. I'm not currently in healthcare,
But now you know.
I get curious about that.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody. I am.
Video advertisements as
Actually,
well as like
I come from
creating
like
accessibility.
That's where I live.
Businesses that are looking to see more access
Oh, yeah.
to their audiences. So essentially, not what they're doing, but more or less creating the content for, well,
That's a
like
big one.
social media, if you're looking to try to just do like a talking head video about what it is you do, who you are, why you should choose these things.
We never
I don't have a card for you, but I can
Very
give you all
rough.
my info.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know you look familiar. Yes, yeah.
Where
Do
is
video
West
for
Station?
Yes. We do social media, commercials, everything.
And it's not yet.
Just shoot me an email, just so we can establish contact.
Awesome, I'm Sergio.
Sergio?
Yeah.
So, what specifically?
The digital sales manager for the video and school.
Okay.
Put it in
And
the
if y'all have a lot of clients
places
looking for more of a video advertising versus just
Well, it's,
locally.
yeah, I mean, now